It does multiple millions a year. Last year, I was diagnosed with depression, where I was like, I've ticked the boxes of success. I have a multi-million-dollar business. I have homes around the world. There were still things missing when it came to this as well. So there's a difference here, where before it was doing okay and it was just me wearing all the hats, to now we'll do a few million a year and I work 4 to 6 hours a week.
This is the Content Capitalists Podcast. We talk to business owners who've used video to grow their businesses to $1 million a year or more. How they did it, what worked, what didn't. Welcome to the Content Capitalists with your host, Ken Okazaki.
Hey, welcome to the Content Capitalist Podcast. And today I have with me a guest all the way from Bali. Now, Chris, we met for the first time, I think, in 2018, I believe, or 19, somewhere around there, when I was just coming into this mastermind where Chris had been a member before me. Now, when we met, immediately I was just like, this guy seems like a really chill, relaxed guy, and I wanted to get to know him. But I don't think we talked until like 2 or 3, sessions later, and a session was like 4 months apart. But really glad I made the connection, guys. Chris Dufey is a coach, and I'm not going to spoil the thunder. But Chris, would you mind getting us started and giving us a quick description on what you do?
Well, firstly, Ken, I just want to say thank you so much for having me, dude. I appreciate you so much, and every single time I get to chat with you and be with you, I walk away a smarter, more inspired, happier dude. So thank you for being you. What do I do? That's a great question. Professionally, I currently am CEO and founder of a business called the Coaches Cartel. So we coach health and fitness professionals for them to be able to build the business, for them to be able to live the life that they want at the end of the day. Perfectly honest, I'm actually really transitioning out of that business where I'm not becoming the face of it anymore. Within a couple of months, I'm going to be replacing myself as CEO, and I'm moving into a next chapter of my life. And a lot of it actually stems around what we were talking about before we hit record, which was me wanting to have great conversations with great people. And essentially, I just want to talk about the things that highly interest me. And at the moment, there is no economic engine. And so especially when you like talking about doing the content capitalist, at the moment, when it comes to my content under the Christopher Dufey brand, I'm being a really shit capitalist because there is no economic engine behind it right now, but I'm purposefully doing it that way also because I want to play a bigger game. Outside of professional, I'm a father of 4 daughters. We're currently living in Bali. We've lived in Bali for about 9 years now. However, we're going to be moving really soon. I don't know. I feel like I've ticked so many boxes of success, but a lot of it it's not the most meaningful thing at the end of the world. And so for me, I'm really trying to figure out how is it that I live my best life and how do I do the things that I enjoy the most so that I can help the most amount of people for them to live their best life.
Okay, Chris, I love what you said there. Now, I'm gonna shoot really straight here. What I heard from you sounds great, but it sounds like the Instagram feed version of the real life story. You know how it is when you get on Instagram, everybody's in the perfect light so their abs show, right? And they got their tan, they just got their haircut, and they're pretending like they don't notice the cameras on them and everything's perfect. But we all know that to get there is years and years of shit that they went through. Whether physically working out their bodies or learning camera cinematography. In your case, I want to know, let's go way back to before you were the success story, right? And I know that you were a personal trainer for people in different parts of the world where you were not doing what you loved. Could you take us back there, I want to hear about how before you decided to become a coach. What was that life?
So to really go back through the genesis of the story, I was really overweight as a kid. It really held me back. I had an eating disorder, and when I finished school, I really was propelled into figuring out how to not be fat, not be overweight, not hate myself, if I could be perfectly honest. I tried every diet and workout under the sun. I finally started to lose some weight. That inspired me to want to become a personal trainer. So at 18 years old, I became a personal trainer. I ran a personal training business throughout Sydney. Then I had the opportunity and I moved to Dubai when I was 26 and went to Dubai, started a fitness business there, did the same thing, but then completely burnt out. And then it was that time because my wife and I just had our first child and I was really unhappy. I was hating life, if I could be perfectly honest, and I was hating myself because I felt like I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing, but it was just like me on a stairway to nowhere. Then I started dabbling with like the online business stuff. And so then it went from me running a business in Dubai, and then we packed everything up because my wife came to me and she goes, we can't live here anymore. We can't keep living this life. Let's move to Bali. We've got a bit of money saved up. You can do the online thing and like give it a go. And I was like, I want to do that. So 3 weeks later, we literally packed everything up, went to Bali and thought it was going to be, do you know what I mean, coconuts and unicorns for the rest. And it was not that at all. I spent 3 years in a tiny little room trying to figure out how to run an online business. It was an online fitness business at the time. And I was really unhappy. I had no friends whatsoever because I was literally working around the clock the whole time. Barely spent time with my family. I'd leave the office just so I could train, and then that was about it. Then I started to figure stuff out. It started to work. Then it kind of naturally gravitated into me helping other coaches be able to run their fitness business. And again, you'd think it would all be sunshines and rainbows, and that was not the case at all. Last year, I was diagnosed with depression because I then got to a spot again where I was like, I've ticked the boxes of success. I have a multi-million-dollar business. I have homes around the world. I have this amazing family. I'm in great physical shape, but there were still things missing when it came to this as well. And so from last year having depression to now being in a great place, I truly am in a great place. However, it's still very me trying to figure stuff out as I go through this. And I'm more than happy to share a lot when it comes to that, because I've learned so much about myself in this process when it comes to this stuff as well. Because there was one big thing that happened. It was maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, Ken. And so the business program that we're both in, I was on a private call. There was about 8 of us on this call together. And I had this problem, this business problem that I was like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. And I was confused and I was wanting help. It was kind of like my one question, my one problem I want to get solved. It was all dudes and there was one female, amazing, Rachel Evans, you beautiful soul, you. And all the dudes, which were great, they were all giving me extremely tactical and strategical answers as to what was happening. And then Rachel sent me a message after the call finished and she goes, all the guys were giving you great answers, but they weren't listening to what was in your heart. And there was like a deep sorrow that was really coming through that she picked up on. And it was her partner, Dean Evans, amazing human being. He was listening to the call in the background and he heard me say everything that I said. And he reached out to me and was like, I think I know what you're going through right now. And there is an amazing author, Alison A. Armstrong, and she talks about as male development and the developmental stages that a male goes through. Essentially, he was like, you're going from prince to king, which essentially is I'm killing off the ego that was this warrior that was me trying to succeed and achieve and get accolades and build this success. And that's dying away. And something bigger and better is coming through me. So I've been on this huge personal development journey as of late, and it's coming to some real fruition. So hopefully that makes some sense for you, Ken, as well.
Yeah. You took a lot and bundled that up into a very neat timeline. Do you mind if I just zero in on a couple of those inflection points?
Please, brother.
And as you're speaking, when you said that when you first decided to do online coaching, right? Mm-hmm. And you were you weren't doing very well. You were doing it all on your own. At that point, were you literally by yourself, just trying to figure it out from zero, or were you picking up some courses, talking to friends, and taking their advice?
Unfortunately, it was me trying to figure it out by myself. I think the only outside input was like literally listening to podcasts and consuming like content that was out in the world and trying to piece that stuff together. It took me a little while. So the guy that we know each other mutually through, Taki, my very first business event that I went to was actually James Schramko's event that was in Manly years and years ago. And so I went to this event. It was a huge thing for me because I had to fly from Bali. I had to pay for everything. And I was like, oh my God. And like the business was doing shit at the time. And so I went to this event and then I saw this guy step up on stage. He wasn't wearing shoes. And it was this guy, Taki. And I went up after him and I was like, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Like that was really good. Very thankfully, the year after, actually, James got me to speak on stage because I'd been able to create some sort of success and some sort of momentum. And I spoke at the event the year after, and Taki was at the event and he came up to me and was like, that was a fantastic talk. And anyway, so this friendship kind of bloomed from there. And then it was later on, it was a couple years after that I actually met up with Taki again here in Bali when him and his family came here. And we were talking to be niceties at the start, then the conversation turned into business. And then that's when I was like, you know what, I really do need some more help with this. And then he was really my first like proper mentor when it came to being able to be like, okay, let's do this. And I won't forget it, dude, because the investment for me to start was huge. And it was like everything that I had at the time. And I was just like, I have to do this. Like this has to happen. So that's when it was the first kind of like really putting my skin in the game.
Yeah, I love what you said there. And for me, it's every single time I've invested in a mentor or a course that was uncomfortable for me. I'll tell you what, when I sell, my conviction to sell is so much stronger. It works better. My prices go up. And because I've seen coaches do this a lot, or not even just coaches, any kind of product, any kind of business. If you're not willing to pay a premium price for what you consider to be premium, how could you expect people to pay that to you, right? Like that conviction is incongruent. And that's why people get stuck, because they're trying to cheap out on other areas of their life. And
I believe in that so much, Ken, that recently we had like a sales team, right? I had people that their sole job was to get on calls and to sell for this business. I felt very incongruent into how things was happening with that. And so I made a radical change recently, and I got our coaches, which every coach that works in this business have all been a client before. They've all been through the entire system. They've been successful with the system, and now they actually work for the business and are coaching others go through the system as well. It's the coaches that now are doing the sales calls. And it's because they have such conviction on the success of the system because they have personally been through it. They get onto these calls now, and there is just a natural transfer of certainty in that conversation that sales conversions has skyrocketed. And it's hilarious because I was like, after I made the decision, I was like, oh my God, I should have done this so much earlier. It makes sense for that. And so that's why I think I believe so much of what you said, and you can't charge something or you can't teach something that you've never done before. That to me just feels out of congruency.
That's a value bomb right there. And I've seen too many fake it till you make it type of coaches, and I'm sure you've seen it in the past too. But just like you said, if the person making the sale has gone through that same experience, they're encouraging the other person too. The conviction is built right in. You don't need to fake anything. Now,
completely agree.
So you went from it not working, picked up a mentor, found more mentors, joined groups and masterminds and stuff. Now, somewhere along that line, I know that you had to start creating content, right? You had to start putting your face out there. Did you face imposter syndrome when you first started doing that?
Oh yeah, dude, you've given me goosebumps. Okay, so especially when starting, I I knew that I had to start creating content because I remember like James Franco was very much like, he has the concept, what's it called? Like own the race course. So it's really having the content as a hub of it. So I knew that I had to do that very early on. I started my first podcast in 2014. And that was a stretch, but that big jump for me was getting my face on video and doing it that way. And I remember when I first started, because I bought a like Canon camera and a mic, like a little shotgun mic that had to go on top of it. And I had to get my wife to stand behind the camera to then hit record so then I could stand in front of it to shoot it. And then sometimes the sound would be really bad. Sometimes it was out of focus. It wasn't even focused on me. It was focused on the background. So many things went wrong. And then there was an evolution from that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot like selfie style videos. And I just did it every day. So I went through, because I was like, I've got to put in the reps. And this is where I think we can use like the transfer of analogies between fitness and business. And I was like, I've just got to put the reps in. Like, I've just got to get this done. And so I gave myself the challenge where I went, every morning walk, I would shoot a video. So every walk that I do each morning, I took, I had it on my phone and I had it on a selfie stick, and I would write a couple of bullet points on a sticky note, and I'd put the sticky note on my thumb so I could shoot the video and have a couple of pointers as to like me remembering what the hell it is I was supposed to talk about as well. And I shot hundreds of those things, hundreds of them. And so it's interesting now, because when people watch my content and videos, they're like, wow, you're such a natural in front of the camera. Like, it just comes through so good. And yes, I do enjoy it, but it very much is a skill set that you have to hone and practice to be able to get there as well. So at the start, it sucked. It sucked so bad. It was horrendous. And so for me, I think one of the biggest learning lessons that I took from that I want others to be able to take from it is you are going to suck at the start. Don't expect to ever do anything at the beginning and you be good at it. That's delusion. However, the process is just to have courage so that you can have confidence through putting in a constant process.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. The question I get more than anything is, what camera should I get for getting started? And you and me know that's the wrong question. The right question is, what should I be talking about, and how should I present, and how often should I do it? And that is going to help you start earning. And then you take that money and reward yourself with the camera and the lights and the fancy lens and all that.
Like,
you know, the gear is the reward, not the right of what do you call it? It's not the entry point, it's the reward. Yes. No, so I don't want to hijack this conversation. No, go ahead.
There's a couple of key things that I've actually recently started to have some epiphany with when it comes to the content and what is it that I should be speaking about when it comes to the content. And one of the big ones for me recently was the concept of we should only be speaking from a contrarian point of view. So let's say, for example, Ken, give me a broad topic that we might produce content on. Just you pick up a content topic.
Sales mastery.
Okay, sales mastery. What do you think is one thing heaps of people talk about that is true that comes to sales mastery, Ken?
You should have a structure for your sales. You don't go into it completely blind.
Sick. Yes. Okay. That's really good. So let's say a lot of people are saying here, okay, we know this, and this is actually a bit of a pet peeve of mine. So there's people that when doing salespeople are given these massive scripts to follow, and they're like, here's the perfect sales script for you to follow, right? That could be like one of the angles for it. Now, I would rather come to the marketplace, to come to the world and say, you know what, screw those big long sales scripts that put you into a container, make you sound like a robot, don't give you a proper conversation. I think you should only have a sales conversation that has 3 bullet points, right? And from 3 bullet points, you're going to be able to increase conversions and be able to sell at a higher price point. Now, that's me having a contrarian point of view in the marketplace, which is essentially saying that stuff over there, that's bollocks. That's not the right thing to use. This is what you should be using, and it's on the other side of the pendulum. the reason why I think this is important is because if you're saying the same thing that everyone else out in the marketplace is saying, it becomes vanilla. Like you just slot in with everyone else, and that's a race to the bottom. But if you are able to do the thinking to then be able to say, you know what is a contrarian point of view, you're naturally going to spark people's curiosity, and you're going to be able to at least hook them into consuming the content, because someone's going to be like, oh, that's different, that's interesting. And it's using a right hook to then be able to get them to consume the content as well, which is obviously the content then actually has to be true and useful for them to be able to apply to get a result.
Absolutely. You're spot on the money there. And is that how you go into content creation these days? You look at how can I bring the flip side of the coin on this topic?
Yes, literally. So this has actually been something like top of mind for me for the last like 2 weeks, which is me thinking about what are the buckets of content that I want to talk about, right? So for me, my personal brand, like Christopher Dufey, I want to talk about things that is going to be surrounded about philosophy and wisdom. So how do I actually live a good life? I want to talk about health. I want to talk about wealth. And I want to talk about, let's say, relationships. They could be 4 buckets of content. Then from those 4 buckets, I want to think about what are the talking points for each of those buckets that is only a contrarian point of view, right? And so it could be anything when it comes to that, but it is much harder, I will admit, because you really have to do thinking. Like you have to sit there and really think things through.
Yeah, the other thing is whatever you say is going to be out there forever, right? So then someone in the future
is good.
Yeah, if you go start flipping your message too often, then you're going to lose trust with the market. So you got to think this through.
Yes, I agree. And if there's one more point I can bolt onto this, it would be you should only be talking to things that you are well versed in. Like if one of your mentors or teachers or someone that you've listened to someone say something and then you turn around and want to create a piece of content essentially regurgitating what someone else has said, dude, that sucks. Like that sucks. So I think it's very much a case of talk to the things that you are well versed in so that you can truly add value with it.
Now I want to go into hearing more about the strategy. But before we do that, I just want to put some gravitas, some weight behind what you're about to say and hear from you about how it's going now. Now, when you first started, when your coaching business, the first 6 months or so, would you be okay sharing how much you're making on a month-to-month basis?
When I first started, I was doing the online fitness business, and then I was helping other coaches be able to build their online business. And it kind of came organically just because I had so many other trainers and health professionals messaging me being like, dude, I saw that you worked in Sydney, then I saw you living and working in Dubai, but now you're in Bali and running an online business. Like, how did you do that? And so I had so many people asking for help. I naturally started to help them. And then honestly, I actually fell more in love with the business than I did with fitness. I fell more in love with me wanting to help people change their business to change their life than rather than to change their health to change their life. And so when I first started the online business coaching, dude, I was probably doing 10 grand a month for the first 6 months.
Okay. That's still a strong start, you know?
It was a strong start, but it was grinding. Like it was soul crushing. Do you know what I mean? And then it really plateaued, and it just like was stuck for ages. And I could see.
How long were you stuck at 10K a month?
Oh, that's a great question, dude. I reckon it honestly would have been at least for about 6 to 9 months.
Okay. Now.
Where now it does.
And was it just you?
Multiple millions a year. And so there's a difference here where before it was doing okay and it was just me wearing all the hats, to now we'll do a few million a year and I work 4 to 6 hours a week.
Nice. So you're literally, the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week, that myth, right? So you achieved it, and you're making millions. So you're multiple millions, and that's a round enough number. I think that people will see the value of what you're about to share here.
I don't want to say the actual number
okay.
because I do want to sell the business in the near future, so there could be some conflict of interest with that.
But multiple seven figures is enough, I think, for our listeners to realize that what you're about to share is worth every freaking penny. Now, before you share, do you feel like you could have achieved this level of multiple millions within the time frame? And by the way, what is the time frame between when you're making about $10,000 a month to where you are now, multiple seven figures, this financial level versus when you started? How many years was that?
That's a great question. 3
years. Okay. That is not bad at all.
3 years.
So,
yeah.
3 years. Do you feel like you could have gotten there if you weren't producing, and this is a highly technical term here, a fuck ton of content and putting it out there?
No, I don't. And I want to back that up for a few reasons. One of the most common feedback. So when I talk with my coaches that are having sales conversations, we do monthly review meetings. And one of the questions I ask in the monthly reviews is, what are the themes that you're hearing? What are the common things that you keep hearing? And for them, I even had one of my coaches ask a prospect. So he came onto a call and this guy was like, I'm ready to go. Like the call barely started. He's like, sign me up. I'm good to go. And the guy was like, oh, okay. Like, that's amazing. And he asked him, he's like, why are you so eager to join? And he goes, dude, I've seen all the video content. I've watched YouTube. I'm good to go. I know exactly what you guys do, and you give me exactly what I'm looking for. And that was the sales conversation. Like, do you know what I mean? For a 30,000 plus investment, that was the sales conversation. Purely because I believe the video content is so good. And there's no magic behind it. It's simply talking to the prospect and showing them how to solve the problem that they have, and also doing it in a way, if I could be perfectly honest, that's coming from a real person. Do you mean I don't want it coming from like, hey, I have all the answers in the world and I'm coming down with the tablets of like exactly what to do etched in stone. It's just like, hey, this is what we're doing on a day-to-day basis with our clients right now. This is the problems that you're having, and this is how we solve them. And from that point of view, things happen really, really easily.
That is awesome.
And I'll also back up, Ken, this is a scientific term. Fuck ton is a correct term. And it is very true, because I think you do have to put so much out to then eventually start getting really good at it. And then you're able to do like a Pareto's principle to look at what actual pieces of content. And we know what pieces of content are doing the heavy lifting for us.
That's amazing. This is a tiny bit off topic, but I'm starting to, every week I'm auditing very famous people's social media videos inside of my group. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding, like, just last week I did Alex Hormozy, and I took over his TikTok channel and looked at, in the last 60 days, the top performers, the lowest performers, and what's the difference. And the lowest performers, he was always talking off camera, like if I'm facing like this, as if I'm talking to somebody else, right? He was always, his hooks were a little bit hard to understand, like a little technical or too many words. And one of the other things is the bottom performers, he was philosophizing, talking about his philosophy on certain things, different topics, right? The top performers, 2 topics. The majority was about money. The second one was about love, romance, relationships, right? He was always looking the camera directly. And in the cases where he was having an interview with somebody else, you could see both people in the frame. If you can't see both people get confused and they leave. And the third thing is the title.
I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. No, I'm not instructing what to do. I'm just looking at what's winning. Like, and I'm going to do yours at some point. But and the first 3 seconds, there has to be a complete sentence in the hook. A complete sentence that makes that with, second grade type words in there. where people do not have to think. Like, what does arbitrage mean, or what does differentiation, or or like any word that's got more than 6 characters automatically puts you in a lower tier of engagement. So this is just a few of the things I'm picking up. And the difference between the lowest performers and the highest performers, the average is 27,000%. The average top 5 and the bottom 5. So just by tweaking a few things, it's a huge difference. And I thought you might be interested in that. And
I love that, dude. I've written it down. This is something I'm going to apply literally from today. Like,
I'll send you the transcript later of that one.
Please. Yeah, dude, that's so good. Like, that's so important to know. Do you mean like, and that's so valuable to know that, because if you're able to, if like, I'm like talking to the person listening and joining us right now, if you're able to know, okay, these are the only few things that I should be talking about, and this is how I structure the way it looks and the way that it sounds and the words that I'm using, like 27,000% difference. Like, dude, like the amount of time that you save because you don't have to shoot as much of it if you don't want to, or just if you keep up the actual shooting amount, the better results that you get from it.
Oh, one other thing, the length. The top performers average length 59 seconds. Bottom performers average length 33 seconds.
So it went all the way.
Yeah, if you max out the minutes and you have something important to say, people stick around.
Love it.
So I've gone from trying to teach to just analyzing and then interpreting what's really happening, because to be honest, TikTok just came in, T-boned me, right? I'm just like, okay, what is this new thing? How do I figure this out? And instead of me like watching a bunch of courses that other people are doing, everybody's saying you got to dance like this, you got to research this keyword, you have to do this music and song and dance. I'm like, hell no. I'm just like, wait a sec, let's go and see what kind of people my customers, my clients, they want to be like. The Alex Hormozies, the Grant Cardones, the Gary V's, the Ryan Serhants, the Chris Dufeys, the Taki Moores, and then on their channel see what's winning and what's not, and find out the difference. That is where my instruction to my clients will come from, not from me saying you got to look for these trends and hashtags and stuff. It's like, no, that's not the difference, because you're using,
so interesting.
You're putting diesel fuel into a gasoline car. It's a different market, a different model, and a different industry.
This is so interesting. So literally before we jumped on this call, I was actually fleshing out our SOP for our media editor. I've actually an hour after we finished this call, I've actually got some interviews for a new media editor to come on board. And so I was fleshing out the SOP for when am I creating my content, to then when I finish creation, how does it get handed off to the team, to how does it end up becoming edited, optimized, and then published. And I actually am not on TikTok right now because I was just like, I'm not even going there right now. And I did say, I want to go through my professional career never having shot a video where I'm dancing and pointing somewhere in the air and words suddenly pop up. It's like, this is hilarious. It could totally be a limiting belief of mine, but it is what it is. And so I find that super interesting, because this is what I love. If someone can then grasp exactly what you said, Ken, because it's brilliant, and then apply that, dude, you have a winning formula right there. Like this, let's go.
I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do Instagram, YouTube, and every platform people are on. And that is how I'm going to stay relevant with what I help my clients with, is look at what's working, deconstruct it. I'll bet that the people who I'm auditing, they don't even know this data. They don't know what to look for.
No way.
Right?
No way.
So that's how I feel. It's, just let the science speak. Now, this show's about you though, so I'm gonna hand you back the mic. I have a question for you here. Right now, what platforms are you on? Where are you seeing it worth your time to put your energy?
Yeah, for me, it's 2 platforms right now. That's podcasting and YouTube. So for me, there is a third, but it's a little bit different for me. So I'm more than happy to kind of talk about what I create and kind of
happy
my
to hear it.
cadence.
I think that
creation.
anybody listening is going to be like, okay, this is probably what people would probably pay that $30,000 to hear from you. So we're gonna get a sneak peek into what is the multi-million-dollar strategy that's driving Chris's business here.
So let's even go bigger picture for now. This will be interesting because I'm willing to say this publicly to then look back in the future and say, how did that pan out? I think that's a cool thing to be able to say. So I want to play a longer game. And that longer game really is I want to be able to build my personal brand because I want to be talking about and doing things that are different to the business. Now, there is one framework I'd love to talk about before we get into this. I think there are two big machines that we should think about as business owners. There is a money-making machine. So what is the machine that makes you money? And there is a meaning-making machine, which is how do you get meaning out of the life that you have and what it is that you're doing? Now, I do not believe that your business has to give you meaning. I don't think the two things have to be your money-making machine and your meaning-making machine. I don't think they have to be the exact same thing. I think it's individual as into how much they overlap. So for me, I have my businesses that do the money making, and then I have Christopher Dufey that is the meaning, right? So they're two different things. So if we talk about what I'm really delving into right now, which is the Christopher Dufey, this is the meaning, this is the thing that's not earning money at the moment, but I know it will in the future. And so there is a cadence of content creation where every month I write an essay. So for me, I want to write because writing helps me think, and I want to shoot. I want to be in front of the camera because that's the way I want to be able to get the information out, which is essentially I want to learn and I want to share. Okay. So once a month I write an essay. So I'm actually just about to finish this week an essay that is answering a philosophical question, which is who is really happy? Is the man that can fulfill all his desires really happy? So I'm literally answering that in an essay, and I'll send that out into the world. Then what I do is 2 to 3 times a year, I do an international trip, and I bring a videographer with me, and I do in-person interviews. So what we were saying before this and why I just love doing this is I love having great conversations with great people. Like that's the thing that just lights me up the most. I want to have deep conversations, pulling apart topics, having nuance to it. And so for me, I want to have face-to-face conversations because I get so much out of that. And also because there is a rapport building to it that I want to add into my life. So if I do 3 trips a year, that should be about 45 interviews that I could get recorded in 1 year's time. And then I want to be able to shoot videos, whether it's me sitting here at my desk with the kit up. All of this kit is thanks to you, Ken, with my setup. And it's funny because everyone that walks in my office is always blown away with how good it is. And I'm always like, it's thanks to Ken. And so for me, I want to be doing interviews and I want to be shooting videos, and that shooting videos, I want to shoot about 1 to 2 per week. I'm not super strict on myself. It's whatever kind of flows out of me and how creative I'm feeling. And it's also like how much work am I doing inside of the business at that time as well. Then from the interviews and those videos, they are what goes onto the podcast and the YouTube. Okay, so they're the 2 main platforms I'm working on. So I kind of like want to come into your question specifically right now. I want to focus on those 2 platforms for 2 reasons. It's the medium of content that I enjoy doing. So it's longer form. I can go into detail on certain things. And it also helps with me being able to do interviews with guests. And also it's long lasting. Like the content can sit there, especially for YouTube. Like it'll sit there. Like we have videos for the business that have been up there for multiple years that are driving traffic and making sales for us. And I think that's brilliant. But however, we then turn into what I call micro content, which will then be like Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, all the other pieces. TikTok, that was what we're putting in the SOP before. And so then that micro content is to drive traffic to get people to either watch the YouTube video or to go to the podcast. And FYI, at point of recording right now, the new YouTube video, the new YouTube channel isn't even live. It's just the podcast that we released last week. So the Christopher Dufey Podcast is where the main thing that we're focusing on right now. So for me, that gives me a cadence of creation that I'm really enjoying. I can do the conversations I love. I can do the writing that I love. I can get in front of the camera and shoot the content that I want to talk about. And it gives me plenty of time to do the current business. And there's also a new business venture that I know that I'm going to be doing very soon.
Okay.
Did that answer the question, Ken?
Yeah. That's a really big, you went from very high level down to tactical. And so the YouTube channel is pre-launch right now. Is that right?
Yes, we've probably got about 12 episodes in the library, but I'm not going to launch that until about 2 weeks from today.
Okay. Well, notify me when you do. I'll be one of your first subscribers.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Right now, there's a lot of people trying to figure stuff out, whether it's getting over themselves, their imposter syndrome, whether it's figuring out if they even should be on video or if they should just be writing text and stuff. What advice do you have to figure out how people should be projecting their voice, figuratively, whether it's by voice on podcast, just copywriting, getting on video. There are people who are successful in these different, channels. What advice would you have for people? And, just think about your clients, what advice do you give them when they ask, what kind of content should I be making?
Great question. And we do hear this a lot inside of the business. There is a few things. Number one, what do you enjoy doing? So somebody might really enjoy and already have experience getting in front of the camera and talking, even if it was just for, say, Instagram stories, like super short clips, just in front of a camera. It's just like everyday behind the scenes kind of look stuff. Keep going with that. That's fantastic. So firstly, looking at what do you enjoy doing, and then two, what is the market actually consuming? And so that is, you want to join those two dots together up, because let's say, for example, I enjoy doing Pinterest boards. Well, that wouldn't resonate with my market, for example. So if it's a case of what do you enjoy doing, I think the next thing, and we touched upon this before, but I'd love to nail this home, is only talk about the things that you are well versed in. And so talk about topics that you actually have knowledge in, or, and I think this is an important or document what you're doing rather than preaching. And so I feel like a lot of people think they have to get in front of camera, and it comes just the whole preaching, I'm going to give you the exact solution, it rubs off wrong. I don't love that aspect of it. But if it's a case of, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, hopefully it works. Do you know what I mean? And kind of like the way that I wanted to answer your previous question is this is what I'm trying to do right now. And I have no idea if it's going to work. We could look back in this interview in a year or two's time and be like, Chris, you got that completely wrong. You should have just went all in on TikTok, for example. Do you know what I mean? That could have been something. And so I feel like if people are able to then think about the positioning of how they're talking, that alleviates the stress and anxiety of them trying to be perfect or them producing content that comes off wrong. Because I don't know about you, Ken, but I feel like people naturally have a really good BS meter when it comes to consuming content and whether someone is actually worth listening to compared to someone that's regurgitating what everyone else is saying.
100% agree with you. Now, I got to get something clear here. You said your advice is they got to enjoy it and the market's got to want it, right? But when you started, what you told me is your experience starting on video was horrible, right? So you probably didn't enjoy that. Was that just a case of you just, biting the bullet and doing the unpleasant until something worked because you're desperate?
Yeah, it was 100% that case. If I had my time again, it would have been different for sure. And that's why if you can start, and the reason why I say start with something you enjoy is so you can get momentum. Now you move out of that first stage and then you move into the stage of, okay, now I've got momentum. Now I'm feeling confident with putting my voice out there. Then you have to test yourself and move into the, okay, I know I need to really be shooting videos right now. Do you mean? And I need to be doing 3 vlogs every week. And that's the cadence I need to get this stuff out there with as well. From that point of view, I think it's much easier, because if someone's starting out and they're feeling stuck, they're feeling like they have imposter syndrome, they're feeling like they suck, telling them to do something that's going to be just as difficult probably isn't the best advice, where I'd rather get someone into momentum first so that you can propel into the things that you're
because not everybody can take as much pain as you can, right? That's the difference.
Honestly, I think it's true.
It is true.
Like,
it is true.
And the same comes like there is a pain tolerance to be like, oh shit, this sucks so hard, but I'm going to keep going. Like, for example, like when I started the content, I remember I knew I had to be shooting videos. I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot videos because I see the value and I see this is where people are consuming. And I needed to learn to edit the videos. So I paid a videographer 1 hour of his time to come to me to show me how he used Final Cut Pro. And I was like, just show me the bare basics of how you use Final Cut Pro so I can shoot a video, upload it to my computer, edit it really roughly, and at least be able to like publish it. And he showed me like how to cut, how to merge, how to do a couple of different things within 1 hour. I think I paid him like $100, and it was the best $100 that I spent, because then I could sit there and edit videos. Like, granted, it took me a really long time for each one, but at least I could get it done.
Yeah. So actually that leads into my next question perfectly, is obviously now you're not spending all your time editing your content. You have other people who do it. At what point do you think it made sense, and it makes sense for coaches or professionals to instead of editing video themselves, hire a professional, either somebody who works for you full-time like yourself, or an agency to do that?
I think that's a really easy answer. Audit your time and know where are you putting your time and what are your revenue generating actions.
Revenue generating actions.
Really simple.
Love it.
What are the things that are actually generating revenue, and where are you spending time, and do it on a daily basis. So I run this within my company where we'll do time audits every quarter. And a time audit's really simple. It's you write down, usually it's just notes on your computer, the time that you start a task, and then the time you end a task, and then what that task is. And every time you switch tasks, you must put down a new line of what that is. And so then you look at it at the end of the day, at the end of the week, and I'll look at their time audits and I can see exactly what tasks they're doing, number one. 2, how often they're task switching, which shows me how focused they are on actually doing the things that they need to be able to do. And then 3, we can categorize how much time are you actually spending doing the major things that you are doing. And from there, it's really easy to help align someone, manage their energy, and then manage what are they actually doing and when are they doing it for them to get the best output. So if someone did a time audit upon themselves, they're then able to look and go, oh, you know what? I spent 7 hours editing a YouTube video. That's terrible. Do you know what I mean? And so if you just figure out, like, let's say an effective hourly rate, if you look at your profit on a per monthly basis with how much work that you actually did, you can figure out what your time is worth at the end of the day. And then you can do a calculation on what is it that I want to palm off.
Love it. Love it. Now, tiny bit of self-promotion here, but if someone, you know what we do, right? With the video, marketing agency, we edit, we repurpose for people like you. What kind of person do you think should be working with like a full-blown team who literally will take the whole job off their hands, and where they can just do what they do and let somebody else take care of all the content creation?
I think the natural thing that comes to me first is I think it's a lot lower than what people probably think it's at. I think people probably think they need to be at a really high level for them to be like, okay, now I'm ready to bring in a team to be able to do this for me. Like, I wish I did it so much earlier. Can I also answer a side question that comes up for me, which is a decision between, do you want to bring it in-house or do you outsource it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I think I got to be perfectly honest, I'm generally leaning more towards the outsourcing rather than bringing it in-house. Now, I know I just said that I'm about to do interviews looking for a full-time media manager. However, that's for the company. And so in my position, I'm actually, there's the company and then there's Chris, and there's two different things. I would naturally move towards, and my recommendation on a broad strokes would be outsource it first before bringing it in-house. I think most people don't have a great operational structure to how they're running things on an in-house basis. Like, we have a really tight ship. So I know, like, someone gets onboarded, I hand him over to Sai, our general manager. We have a very structured onboarding routine. So someone knows exactly how the company runs and all of the systems behind it. So that's really simple. And we have everything SOP'd out, like granular to the checklist for how that stuff should work. So if you don't have that, it's really simple. Give Ken money, let the team do it because they have all of the systems, and then you get to focus on the things that we said before, which is the revenue generating aspect. So for me, my content creation is, actually, can I do something,
sure,
Ken, to maybe
absolutely
add value? Is let me bring up my Asana in front of me, and there's two things I want to be able to share because it's systemized out. So every month I will sit down. So the last Wednesday of every month, I will sit down and I'll plan out the topics of what is the content that I'm going to shoot in the month to come. I will then research those topics and I'll write the headlines for those topics. I'll probably write out a couple of bullets as into what each piece of content I'll actually talk about. So that's like a monthly overview. It's like me getting prepped. Then on a weekly, I'll look at what's the pieces of content that I need to create for this week. I'll confirm if it's the headline that I want to run with that. And then I'll write out the framework for me to shoot the piece of content. I'll shoot it. I hand it to my media manager, and then they know to do the rest. So as I know exactly what I'm doing on a monthly basis. I then shoot and create the content and hand it off. For example, on Saturday, I did 3 interviews for the podcast here. I had the 2 videographers rock up, set the cameras up, set the lights up, set the mics up, everything up. I walked in my office, I sit down in the chair, we mic ourselves up. We did the 3 interviews over 3 hours. They upload the content and I don't touch it for the rest of it. The only thing I'll decide on is what's the headline for that piece of content, and what will the description say for that piece of content as well.
Got it. And you do this both for your business channel and for the Chris Dufey channel, like the brands?
For the business, I don't even do that anymore. The team does it, so I just do it for.
And the content for the business is from your interviews, from those interview tours. Is that right?
No, the content for the business is what the team creates. So that's
so you're not even in it.
Interviewing. I'm not even in it anymore, dude. I'm not even in it. Yeah.
Wow. So you've definitely removed yourself. So this is a real sellable business you have, like, because you are no longer the face of the business, and like Correct. You said earlier, you actually are closer than I had pictured in my mind. You were to being ready to sell. Like you've separated the two. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, dude. It's like, and I think that's a really. Let me talk to something. This is cool. This gets into stuff that I think is really important. It might be a little high level. So if someone's like, Chris, I'm totally not there, just listen, take in what you can. You will get there. I was at a business event in the US last month, and I got asked to do a teaching presentation on creating a coaching business that is able to run without you and becomes a sellable asset, because that's obviously what I'm currently going through right now. So the first question, it was interesting. There was about, 20 other people that I was presenting to, and all super high level, 7-8 figure entrepreneurs. And the first question was like, do you really want to be able to create a business that is a sellable asset, or do you want to be a dancing bear on the stage? And there is no right or wrong answer, but you must decide on which one you want, because it will dictate the actions. If you want to create a sellable asset, you then must be able to create what I call them. You got to become a master maker, which is I need to be able to put the team in place, and I'm the one coaching the team for them to do what it is that they need to be able to do. And so it was a little while ago. You might really appreciate this, Ken. So I had my head coach, and I hired a videographer. We're going to shoot a bunch of content and shoot a bunch of ads. And I rocked up and I go, no, I'm not in the videos anymore. What am I even doing here? And so I was like, no. And I was like, Josh, our head coach, and he's marvelous. I was like, Josh, it's all you, brother. You've got this. And so I sat back and directed a little bit. And it was brilliant. And it was the first time where I was like, oh my God, I'm not in this at all. Like there is no Chris. And that was a profound moment for me to see, because I could watch the videographer, I could watch my team actually producing it and doing such a great job of everything coming out, and it was not there. So it plays on your ego, because at one point I was like, oh, this is totally not about me at all. But I think it's very important, because if you look at it from the systems point of view, and I think we should all be doing that, even if you're just a one-man band, you should still think about how you're operating under systems and what are the procedures and habits of behavior that you're doing. It makes things repeatable and it makes things predictable. And so then you're actually able to create a business that, do you know what I mean, is a sellable asset.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's over people's heads. I think that, it makes a perfect sense. And also, just the picture, do you want to be a dancing bear? And it is fun to be the dancing bear bouncing on top of that ball in the circus ring. But
it is.
It's a lot of fun, but it's got an expiry date, right? People like Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, they're doing better as they age. And that kind of skill, investing in and being the chairman of businesses, that never expires, that skill, right? Mm-hmm. Dancing bears expire. They
do. And I think this is a topic that isn't talked about enough of, which is how much dancing do you want to do? Because and I think I took the term dancing bear off Roland Fraser, and it was like, when the music stops, the money stops coming in.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, because as soon as the music stops or you just stop dancing, that's when the money stops. And that petrified me, because I was like, oh shit, what's going on? So that's why I wanted to delineate money-making machine and meaning-making machine, because everything that I get to do under the Christopher Dufey brand, the stuff that I talk about, like I love it. It lights me up, and I want to become world's best at this topic. But also at the same time, I know that I can do it from a point of view where I'm not monetizing it directly. Well, at the moment, I'm not even monetizing it. And I think that's an interesting concept of how much or how are you monetizing the content, and how does that impact the value that you give to the value that's taken to the taking. And it's like a give-take scenario as well. And that's kind of like it's a theme that I'm playing with at the moment.
Love it. I want to respect your time, and we're just wrapping up here. 2 last questions. Last one is, if someone's like below $1 million, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs set their anchor at 7 figures as that big, that one big step. And what kind of content do you think people should be creating if they're below and they want to jump above? Like, if there's some general advice for coaches in that space, what would that be?
Okay, good question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is what a great friend and mentor of mine, Alex Schafrin, talks about, and he calls it the 7-figure myth, which is everyone thinks that once they get to the $1 million or 7-figure mark, like, do you mean the skies open up and everything's going to be all good? And that's a myth. Usually that is not the case whatsoever. So I kind of just want to don't think happiness is just going to come, or success comes from when you get to that $1 million mark. That's not the case. The type of content that you should be creating. Okay, going to the $1 million mark, I think it would be focus on one platform. So just focusing on one platform and becoming as good as you possibly can in it. And it would be setting at least 1 year to just focusing on that one platform.
Love it.
And I put the preface, on it, Ken, mastery. Like, be good at it. Don't be mediocre. Be really good.
Give it a year. Get masterful.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it there in a year, give it another year or try another platform.
I don't know if I can answer that question. I think that's where self-reflection comes in for someone to be like, well, why didn't it work? Why have I only gotten the results that I have gotten thus far? Because I think a lot of people can honestly bullshit themselves when it comes to why they haven't achieved what it is that they want to achieve. And there's many. That's a podcast by itself, but a worthy one as well.
I'm gonna use that phrase. Honestly, bullshit, because just fucked my mind right there, but it was good. I get what you mean.
It's an oxymoron that I think a lot of people can fall back into, because that I find it interesting how easy it is that we can lie to ourselves and justify things. Like, let's use fitness for example. Ken, you're in amazing physical shape. You've gone through an incredible transformation that I admire tremendously. It's because you didn't bullshit yourself. It's because you were honest with yourself and you showed up and did the things that you needed to do. And it's the exact same concept for putting content out that works.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Chris. Appreciate you pointing me in the right direction at the beginning.
That's all you do.
Last question. Let's say there's a fitness trainer who's listening to this, and we talked a bit about how you're helping people, and they're just like, well, how do I get in on that? Where should people go to find more about what you do and how you might be able to help them?
If a fitness coach wants help actually building their online business, go to Coaches Cartel. There's the Coaches Cartel podcast or coachescartel.com. For me personally, the only place to go to would be the Christopher Dufey Podcast. So wherever you listen to podcasts, just go to Christopher Dufey Podcast and join in. And that's really where my focus is for content right now, and how I can share as much as I share about and talk about the things that I want to talk about, and honestly be able to figure out how do we actually live a life worth living. That's the question I'm trying to answer myself.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for your time. I've written down a whole bunch of notes, and I know that anybody listening, if nothing else, they've seen or they heard the true life story of how you went from being an overworked and stressed out fitness trainer to right now running an international multi-million-dollar business that you very well may be on the cusp of exiting and living a truly free millionaire lifestyle. So guys, listen to this again if you need to, but there is so much gold that Chris dropped in here. Chris, thank you so much for coming on here. And I think that there might be an opportunity for a follow-up on this to see what happens after the sale or after whatever the next level is.
Yeah, dude, it'll be interesting. I reckon early next year could be a time where I'd love to jam again. Obviously, dude, talking with you, Ken, is always a highlight of my day. So, yeah, let's see actually what Lady Fortune shows up with.
All right, absolutely. Bye for now, guys, and I'll see you in the next podcast.